So I remember when I started out in marketing, I finally got my brand budget to prepare my presentation to the CEO about this amazing brand that I was going to launch into the marketplace and transform for our business. And this is the days of offline media, so I had a great media plan together with a TV schedule and outdoor schedule. And I did my presentation, and then the CEO said to me, "Andrew, half this money you're going to spend is going to be wasted. My problem is I just don't know which half." So as a little brand manager, I went back and beavered away, and I went line through line on my outdoor schedule and my media schedule to really try and make sure that was really working hard for me. A number of years later, I was presenting again a marketing plan for an organisation, and I heard this quote again from a CFO this time, from the finance officer, saying, "Andrew, how do I know this is actually going to work for us as an organisation, that your time, your team as an investment for the organisation is going to deliver us a result?" So I decided to Google this quote and find out, is this something they get trained on as CFOs and CEOs? But it turns out it was actually quoted over 100 years ago by an American. And often as marketers or those that are paid to communicate for our organisations, we get challenged, well, how do I know I'm getting a return? How do I know it's actually going to work for me and us as an organisation? And I think this is the exciting thing about digital marketing. We know this, that actually it's getting smarter, but it's really getting so much more smarter. And I think with some of these social media channels, with the geolocation data that starts to come in, with single source data in terms of it's a consumer knowing so much more about them, it starts to get really exciting. For Tourism New Zealand, around 90% of our spend on marketing globally is digital, and a number of markets we're 100% digital in terms of our media investments. And so for us, it's incredibly important to look at across the whole range of our activities and how we're leveraging what is advocacy, what is earned, what is owned content to help drive this. And facing the same challenge from my board today in terms of how, Andrew, do I know that I'm going to get a rate of return on that investment? And destination markets, it's quite hard, really, when you think about it. It's all right if you're an online business and you've got a retail site, you can look at that and you can follow that traffic. But how do we understand that and how do we look at that? The other challenge is the amount of choices we have. And it's already been talked about this morning. There's so many choices and they're emerging. Every day there's a new platform that's emerging, which is providing so many channels for us to operate on. Immense amounts of content being generated or opportunities in which to fill with content. And the challenge with these platforms also is that these consumers, these audiences are highly engaged in these platforms. So they're very critical for those that come in to these platforms and want to participate in these platforms. So for Tourism New Zealand, how we're going about addressing this is all about focus, being really, really clear on what we're trying to achieve. So firstly, it's about a single message. What is our unique point of difference versus any other destination or any other opportunity in the world? And I'll talk about that. For us, it's about everything close. And if we're going to do a bit of communication in these platforms, again, or even help facilitate, curate any things, what are we wanting to do? What's the thing, what behaviour, the attitude we're trying to get and trying to achieve by doing that, being really clear what we're trying to do. And again, we've set that overall for our organisation. It doesn't matter if it's PR, it doesn't matter if it's the social media team, it doesn't matter if it's the paid team. We're all really clear on what's the action. And that for us is about overcoming barriers. And then who? It's actually where you start, but it's also where you end. It's who are we actually speaking to? And at Tourism New Zealand, we're very clear it's about those that are actively considering our destination already. So we call those the active considerers. And that's because as an organisation, it's about driving economic value. We're not a volume destination. We're a small country, a long way to get to. It's expensive. And so therefore, it's all about those that are already actively considering us and therefore driving the economic value that they can deliver us as a destination. So firstly, the first two in terms of the single message and the why. So the 100% Pure New Zealand campaign is only 16 years young, we think of it. It's only 16 years young. It's been an incredibly robust campaign for us as a destination in terms of flexibility to work across multiple media, multiple channels. And we've spent the last 18 months really getting clear, crystal clear for the total organisation and all the teams in terms of what does it mean in terms of our single-minded proposition for the visitor. And that's about everything close. And so we understand in terms of, for our visitors, from our exit surveys. So each year is around 15,000 visitors that are surveyed when they leave the country in terms of what was their experience in New Zealand. And an amazing stat, 40% of those visitors said their visit to New Zealand exceeded their expectations. Which is a pretty amazing stat when you think about it, that actually for a lot of our international visitors, this is a once-in-a-lifetime holiday, so their expectations are really high, yet for 40% of them we're exceeding that delivery in terms of a promise, in terms of a visit. And when we look underneath that and see what were they doing and what were the things that were really driving that, there's two parts of it. There's one about the diverse range of amazing landscapes and experiences they're having in a period of time that represents amazing value for a potential visitor. The second thing is the interactions they have with the people and the sense of welcome and embracing that visitors come when they visit New Zealand. And that's what we sum up with the promise around everything close. So firstly, in terms of the landscapes. So for our visitors, we know what New Zealand offers. We offer amazing fjords, we offer amazing lakes, we offer vineyards, a whole diversity, but it's that proximity that makes it unique. And so what we've done is a lot of work around image research and research which again, if you look at Instagram or your social feeds, will start to give you a sense of actually what are those actual experiences that a visitor is posting is telling you that is unique and compelling in the experience they want to have. We've taken that to a next level. We're actually, across 9 of our markets, we research over 100 images, each individually, understanding how unique, how compelling they are, and would it drive motivation for them to potentially visit. And from that research, we've got a list of the top 10, which actually we know differentiates us from anywhere else in the world, and when you combine them together in terms of an easy reach, delivers that promise of everything close. So that's our new film we've just launched this month. Take a look at it now.
Let us take you. Let us show you around. This place where wonder grows. Let shores of gold greet you. And islands lead to lakes. Where spirits of the land tell you tales. Let us take you by the hand and lead you to secrets hidden beneath green hills, where fruits of the land thrive, and your next ride is always close by. We will hoist you up high, carry you like a feather in the sky, to somewhere like nowhere you've ever seen. Our land will whisper your name. And tell you stories from ancestors long ago. So let it take you. Let it wake you from inside and show that your dreams are here, waiting.
Thank you. So every day a different journey, our consumer fronting proposition for everything close. So everything close is a proposition that can last for a very long time and have multiple interpretations for different teams, whether it be in social media, whether it be in PR, but this is the paid campaign work. You can kind of sense in there the sense of people. People is kind of hard when you know it's actually part of the reason people are interacting, and often when we're selling an experience, it is often the experience they have with our teams that actually really make it unique. It's quite hard to portray. We've started to put it in there. But what we also know is in a digital world and us wanting to be a really authentic storyteller, authentic destination, is we wanted to create some richness in that and enable lenses to go deeper into that in different channels. So we spent a lot of time understanding, well, what does actually it mean when a visitor visits New Zealand in terms of the interaction for people? What makes New Zealand unique in this space versus anywhere else in the world? Again, that was a journey we started about a year ago. And one of the values sitting in our Indigenous people's culture, the Maori, they talk about a value called whānau. And so whānau for Maori, and actually broader New Zealand, Kiwis really understand this, the idea they talk about our whānau. It's a broader concept of the extended family. When you talk about whānau, you're talking about a warmness and a friendliness and a relaxed relationship of someone you care about. And so with working with various stakeholders in terms of Maori tourism, with operators, and actually interviews with visitors, we understood that, got to the insight around the fact that our visitors arrive as strangers but leave as whānau. That when they leave here, they've had interactions with people that give them a sense that they're really welcome and they're really welcome to come back. And that was kind of the insight that led us to then say, well, okay, how do we start to bring this to life in our work? And then we started to look at our design system in terms of what we were using around the campaign. And we actually found the 100% Pure New Zealand logo was actually using a German font originally. German machine font. Now, being an authentic storyteller telling our stories we know as destination markers, saying that it's actually from Germany. And then when we looked at actually what we used in copy and started to use, and actually a number of the industry we're using in copy, it actually was Archer font, designed for Martha Stewart US magazine. Easy find now today. Our visitors can start to find this information. So we said, well, actually, you know what? We've got to stand back and actually redesign this and come to have another look at how we, therefore, do it from our destination to enable us to tell richer stories. And this is what we did.
100% Pure New Zealand campaign has been running for nearly 15 years. The easiest thing in the world for us to do would be to start again and to create something new. It's much tougher to take something that's working really, really well and make it even better.
We wanted it to come from our place. The opportunity to actually use one of our leading font designers to help design something that reflects us as a people and us as a nation, this was really important.
What we've done is we've brought the creative discipline of a young Pākehā type designer and an amazing Māori visual artist and set up a situation where they can work together to construct a typographic language system that unlocks some of what the client really loves about the 100% Pure mark.
The only way to demarcate us is to make sure that there's a level of depth to the narrative that is unmistakably Aotearoa, New Zealand.
Yeah, it is important that it is from New Zealand, it is from our hand. That's why I was so excited with Rangi carving it. They're my outlines, but it's his hand.
It's amazing to watch up close because like those last lines you're taking like probably less than half a mil, right? The timber is a tree that's the kauri. Those essential aspects of the tourism brand are being filtered into the expression of the work.
So it is going to be one of those elements that makes Tourism New Zealand's work visually distinctive. So there is nobody else who's going to be presenting on the global stage with the same font. It's more elemental, it's more crafted, so it resonates at a deeper level versus something we could have, just simply slickly come up with on a computer.
It will stand out in a very digital world. It will have an earthiness about it, which I think is fantastic. And it's very consistent with what the New Zealand brand is all about.
Thank you. So that piece of work has enabled, again, all the teams to start to engage and tell richer stories. It's a basis in which to go in there and start to tell richer stories about our people and about our culture. And if you go onto newzealand.com, you'll find a whole area which has started to allow us to start to tell those stories in a deeper way. So we're really clear in terms of what we stand for and what we're going to sell and what we're all trying to communicate in our work and what makes us unique. About a year ago, we really embraced the commercialization, shall we say, of social media. When Facebook told us the great story, that although you had so many likes, actually that you weren't going to reach that many people. But for us, that wasn't a problem because we were really clear on who we're targeting, which was active considerers. And actually, we wanted to be highly targeted. So the fact that they commercialized this was actually, we saw as a positive benefit, as long as it was cost effective versus other media channels, of course. So we started a partnership with them, exploring about how our work was going with these potential visitors. And I think the great thing versus other research you may look at, and you'll probably may be involved in different research, is you go out and recruit people that claim that they're considering your destination or claim they've experienced. The great thing when you start to look at some of these platforms is based on their behaviour and activity, you know that they're actively considering your destination, or the fact that they logged on or geolocated in your destination, you know they actually visited. So suddenly, from a research perspective, you actually have live potential visitors you're researching against, which is incredibly powerful. So we actually started to do some effect studies, looking at what was our communication doing. And we ran it across 4 markets. And what we found actually was that they were a bit sheepish about presenting the results. They said, actually, fantastic results that motivation went up. Fantastic job done as a marketer. People are feeling more positive towards my destination. The bad news is their intent went down. Their intention to purchase or intention to go to our destination went down. And it's like, holy shit. So our work is driving motivation, but actually they're actually not moving through to the next stage. So we think about it from a traditional planning funnel, they're going from dreaming, but we're not moving them into planning and ultimately to conversion. So when you have that kind of result as a marketer, you guys say, oh shit, well, let's bury that one. Or do you sit there and say, well, let's understand it more? And this is the beauty of this data. This is actual people. So we went and started to understand why. And what we said is when we do great work in inspiring people and why they want that experience, what starts to come up quite quickly are barriers, and barriers to conversion. And what they were for us in Tourism New Zealand was actually how easy is it to get around? So often we show experiences in its ideal way, but we're not necessarily showing some of the basics that people want to know, how to travel, how to get there. And so the 2 questions actually universal across 9 markets we found at a high level came to, well, actually, how easy is it to get around? Because it's never that sexy showing a road or a car, actually. People want to see the experience when they get out of the car, but actually the next question was actually, how easy is it to get around? And the next thing is to say, well, actually, what else is there to see and do? And for us, that was a great one because, of course, we know that actually there's so much to do nearby. The challenge is how do you communicate it? And that's some work we started to develop with some Facebook. Again, we started a partnership with Facebook to say, well, actually, let's look at some sequential marketing opportunities, sequential communication opportunities. How do we start to communicate and start to show this as we start to move people through in a really engaging way? And again, we partnered with Facebook, who shared with us their current best practice in terms of how you design a piece of communication on their platforms, how you integrate it from Instagram into Facebook. And what we're finding with that platform, it works all the way through the funnel. So people quite happily click off into a website link, quite happily click off into deals. So we're already starting to see that actually as a platform to move people through the funnel, this is a great platform, and also to sequentially target with them. So from that, we've built up 5 films, which we go live with this week, 2 weeks after the hero dreaming piece of communication. It starts to address those things. Well, what else is there to see and do, and how easy is it to get around?
Excuse me, no running?
Last morning for Wellington. Would all passengers please board your train on platform 2? Brian!
Here, honey, let me help you.
Great. Our vacation has left the station.
I got an idea. Come on. We're gonna make this a fun trip. The hell with that thing. Come on.
Fantastic big U-shaped lounge, heaps of room inside, big kitchen, and loads of storage for all your bags and all the other things you pick up.
What about that one right there?
The combi? Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, she is gorgeous, huh? You're my co-pilot, right, honey? Let's go see New Zealand. All right. Yeah, I got it.
So as I said, it actually starts with who your audience is. And for New Zealand, we focus on our active considerers. So if you take a market like the US, there are 314 million people in the US. Anyone have any idea how much their outbound is? They have about 60 million people outbound every year travelling overseas. New Zealand, we receive only 200,000, less than 1% of their outbound visitors come to New Zealand. And we actually want those that are going to stay longer and spend more, actually. We want to cherry pick our 200, thank you very much. And this is where data-driven digital audiences become really exciting and really interesting for us. And so what are we doing in this space is we're looking at travel intenders. So we're building custom audiences through Facebook with audiences such as travel intenders. So obviously based on their feeds, what their friends are sending them, based on what their activity is, we can basically build some audiences starting to say, you know what, they are actively considering New Zealand as a destination based on what's going on in their feeds. And we're able to look at how that performs as a media channel versus, or an audience versus any other media audience. Obviously, we're able to retarget off newzealand.com, which is a nice, easy one. Someone visit the sites. We know about 25% of our visitors to New Zealand will visit newzealand.com, and that's an easy one to retarget off, and retarget off with specific information to these channels. So as I said, these channels they're really quite targeted audiences, they're really on specific conversation. This enables us to feed in content based on their activity, which they're interested in terms of their activities, whether it's cycling, hiking, fishing, a particular destination, a particular time of year. We're also looking at visitor lookalikes. So the great thing about platforms like, again, Facebook or Instagram is they geolocate. So we've started capturing those from our key markets, those that actually visit New Zealand, and then we're building an audience based on those particular feeds. So looking at those audiences that arrived in New Zealand and actually converted, and then said, you know, what were the things that they were doing on their feeds? What were the sites they were visiting? What were the kind of activities going on? And then can we build audiences based on what that looks like back in those markets? And of course, these platforms are so large, you know, it doesn't, and we're, you know, relatively small in terms of who we're targeting. We can get very targeted with this information. Another piece we're trying is a piece around transient backpackers. So here in Australia, they receive here around, I think it's around 650,000 backpackers from all over Europe. And obviously very successful campaigns are around trying to drive that. In New Zealand, we only receive about 10% coming into New Zealand of that, either directly via us first or actually across the Tasman. And what we're trialling is targeting those audiences actually when they're in Australia. So again, Facebook knows they're a backpacker, they know they're in Oz, they're travelling here, and we're trialling, is it a deal to get them across the Tasman? Is it an experience to get across the Tasman? So geolocated targeting based on where they are right now and what they're doing, with offers that we're only 3 hours away, across a flight 3 hours away. And then the international visitor lookalike. So again, looking at those lookalike targets based on actual consumer behaviour, is there some commonalities which actually we can go back up into those markets and find similar consumers in which to target and get highly efficient with our audiences. So key with us is actually making some choices. Again, so from that point of view, we've got very focused and said, you know, who are we going to partner with? Who are we going to partner with us that can help with our paid, owned and earned? They can sit there and say, you know, this is what you should be doing in this space for your earn. This is what you should be doing from a paid perspective. And look at what best practices and trialling some new things out there. And we're getting great advice. You know, it's kind of like if you pay that, actually you should be getting at least that in terms of shared and earned. Partnering in terms of content and sequential marketing is really, really important. And lastly, advocacy. So obviously we all like something for free in terms of consumers. And I suppose from a destination point of view, our visitors will do it anyway. So the question is, where do we get involved and why do we get involved? And so for us here, because we're very clear in terms of actually it's about everything close and those barriers we're trying to overcome, it becomes very clear then when we should participate in this space and where we should curate in this space. And so, for example, a Best of New Zealand, hashtag New Zealand Must Do, is an easy way for us to start to populate those channels with other interesting things to do. What else can I do around here? The use of social influencers or bloggers become very clear in their brief that actually we want you to show how you got around. We want you to show how many different things you did in a day. So therefore it's very clear that it's actually working to overcome barriers and therefore they have the ability to see those messages. So it becomes very clear for us what we're wanting to do in those channels and what we need to do that maybe, for example, a visitor won't do. A visitor's unlikely to be showing actually the cars they're driving around and what it was like driving on the roads and how easy it was. So it becomes very clear on how we participate in those areas. So for us, it's all about focus. It's about being very clear in our single message, everything close that makes our destination different. It's about really clear when we're going to communicate what are we wanting to do to get conversion, and that's about overcoming barriers ultimately so we know that they will arrive in New Zealand. And with these new media platforms, we can start to see that through geolocation. And really be data-driven. It's not being afraid of that, the ability to try different things and to have lessons and to continue to push to try to learn and actually break some stuff to actually learn how to get sharper and better at our marketing. So I'll leave you with one of our 5 series of Facebook films to finish with.
Ooh, this looks good. White bait fritters.
I'm sorry, did you say bait?
Yeah, look, they look good.
Bait is something that you get to catch the food. It's not the food. So, with all due respect, I'm not gonna...
All right, how about green lip mussels?
Love mussels.
All right. I'm not driving.
Thank you.
Great presentation. Thank you for sharing that. We have a few minutes left, so I'd like to start opening up questions from the audience. Does anyone have any questions? Can I get a microphone to Rubina? Yes.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks so much. Awesome stuff. We've got at where I work at SoMeT Travel Group, we have a limited budget for marketing, and obviously with Tourism New Zealand, you guys have sunk a fair portion of the budget into creative, and the creative is sensational. It's phenomenal. When you're given a tighter budget, would you choose the creative, to invest more in the creative or more in the channels?
Yeah, good question. They are related. You'll be surprised how little we spend on our creative. So we've completely, in the last 18 months, changed our whole creative process. We've backed a lot of agency cost out of it. So, for example, in the videos, and those Facebook videos, we work direct with a director and a creative. They flew over, so part of the fee for the talent was they got a free trip. That was their holiday. So you get very raw kind of emotions. And it would have brought our production costs down to around 25% of what we were previously paying. Same with photographers. So we're now going in direct with photographers, building relationships. So I think for us, we realised in this new world, I suppose, when we started this journey about a year ago, that content was incredibly important as part of it, and therefore we had to completely also change our model there. And so that was actually building relationships where we were going to pay for it with people that can produce content directly. And in the case of the Facebook film, part of working with them directly was that we wouldn't touch it. So we agreed on a script, we agreed the talent, and then we said, we'll see you in 10 days, have fun, and we'll see what you can come up with. And that's what they produce for us. So I suppose it's, when you get to the heart of understanding really what you're about, it kind of frees you up a lot. And then when you bring those costs down hugely, it means you can take more risk in content. And what we've found is the converse is true. When you think about it, I think particularly in our sector of holidays, people don't go on holidays to have a shit time. People go out there to enjoy themselves on the whole, right? Absolutely. And on the whole, if you really understand what you're about, then actually you won't have a bad bit of content. you'll actually always have a great bit of content. And so therefore it's not getting in the way of how that's produced. It's actually getting the costs right down on how you capture it, whether it be, we often, for our assets, will run competitions. The fee they get paid is the holiday. The quid pro quo is at least half the time as they'll be shot and it'll be used, and it's worldwide rights for every media, all usage. Again, we're a destination. We haven't got a lot of money actually on the global stage. And then because you go into that production model, your costs come down, you can take more risks, and what we've found is actually we've ended up with more assets at far cheaper price. So I think that the challenge, it's a long answer to your question because it's explaining what we're doing, but I suppose challenge how you produce content really hard. If you can really focus, actually you can bring those costs right down, you can actually increase the volume to help with this hugely. So content is incredibly important, but you've got to think differently about how you go about getting it than you previously did.
Thank you. Any more questions from the audience in the back?
Hi Andrew, my name's Paige from Tourism eSchool. Just a quick question about how you've been able to identify your travel intenders. There are a lot of destinations that obviously don't have the budget or the tools currently there to identify and gather the data for these digital audiences. Do you have any suggestions for destinations who A, don't have the budget, and B, don't have the data collection tools set up already, how they can identify their most profitable prospects?
I think again, we've got the leverage because we've pooled our spend. So previously, again, 2 years ago, we were spending across a lot of digital channels. So what we've said is actually we're going to take a leap of faith and focus on these other channels and increase it to get that kind of leverage. But it's still sizable money, but because, again, if I compare ourselves to Tourism Australia, even or anyone, the major destinations, they're way outspending us. So we've just been thinking differently. So I think, again, we've applied focus. So all I would just say is sit there and look at focus and how can I focus the limited dollars I've got? And then think smartly about it. So if you think about these new digital channels that are emerging, and if we think of, they're called social media, just think of any, it doesn't matter, forget whether you pay for it or not, just think of it like a media channel. And then think, how can I be relevant in that channel? So us then when we spend, so the smartest thing we can do is obviously sending messages off someone that's come to newzealand.com or retargeting off them, but not retargeting with our generic message, but retargeting them with content that's relevant based on their activity. So by that activity, it's going to tell you a little bit about who they are. And so I think there's some simple things you can do, just very simply, that can start to think about how I could do things a little bit differently and a little bit smarter. And just try it. That's what we're doing, is trying it. And is that working better for us versus other things? And so that's partnership. So it's whether, because we actually don't sell anything, like most destinations, we don't sell anything. So the partnerships with airlines are really important. We won't partner with someone unless they'll share data, and they've got to tell us, did they make a sale? The partnerships with media, we want to understand more, actually. And why? Because therefore, ultimately, we're all rowing in the same direction. We all want the same outcome. The media want the outcome because their media will become the most cost-effective, the most effective media. Our partners want it because it becomes the most efficient place that they can spend some money, actually, by partnering with us, because of us really getting really close to who we're targeting. So I think if you think of those broader principles and then just come down and question what you're doing, and then just try some stuff and see what's the most effective to do it. So yeah, look at your current activity, think about how you could do it a little bit different, and then try something. That's how we've kind of gone into it. We've broken a few things. I told you, our ad wasn't working. We went away to understand that. That's led to whole new thinking. We switched on mobile search a year ago, and the performance was crap. And you say, our site wasn't bad on mobile, but shit, it wasn't performing. So we switched it off again, and we've done a whole project relaunching the site now, which will be pretty amazing. We've modularised the page, a performance on mobile. And the speeds have picked up, our bounce rates have all dropped. But again, we've kind of done this stuff by breaking stuff. We've kind of said, let's break some stuff. To answer your question, is kind of, what can I break? And then if I go and break some stuff, I'll get some learning. And it's being brave enough to be able to do that in a managed way, is what I'd say. So you manage whoever your bosses are, you contain it, but go out and break some stuff, because that's where you'll understand where the opportunities are. Did that answer your question? Yeah.
In the interest of time, we unfortunately have to move on. There are many questions. I have many questions for you, but after the next presentation, we'll go to break, and we'll come up and ask you. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.